In the late 19th century, physics and philosophy collided at a specific junction, leaving cosmologists to choose between two incompatible models of the universe. Materialist models required every physical effect to have a prior physical cause. Tracking these causes backward leads to an infinite chain of events, yet the laws of thermodynamics suggest a closed system cannot maintain motion forever without an external input. Theology addressed this by inserting an uncaused anthropomorphic creator, a prime mover outside the system. However, this required a suspension of the laws of causality to explain how causality began. In 1888, Helena Blavatsky published The Secret Doctrine, proposing a third alternative built on internal deduction and ancient axioms. We will treat this text as an architectural blueprint, testing its foundational axioms for mathematical consistency rather than literal historical accuracy. To understand this system, we must look past the idea of a physical beginning and reconstruct its central premise, a scale-invariant algebraical formula that governs the mechanics of manifestation. The starting condition of this cosmology is a state that precedes all physical differentiation. This state is pralaya, or universal dissolution. It represents a condition where all manifested attributes vanish into a single, boundless abstraction. The text refers to this as eternal non-being. This passage argues that the concept of being is restricted to our present physical consciousness. From this perspective, pralaya is the noumenon, the underlying reality that remains when the phenomena we perceive are withdrawn. The resulting axiom describes a universe without a first construction or a last destruction. Instead, it posits a ceaseless, cyclical pulsation of expansion and contraction. This model of eternal alternation addresses the first cause paradox by removing the need for a start date. The universe is finite in its physical forms, but infinite in its duration. The operational code for this system is contained in the stanzas of Zion, which provide the blueprint for cosmic evolution. Blavatsky presents these stanzas as an abstract meta-formula. They apply mutatis mutandis to all scales, suggesting that the laws governing a solar system are identical to those governing an atom. Manifestation begins when a singular, dimensionless point of focus emerges from the dark field of pralaya. Differentiation follows a geometric sequence. The point extends into a one-dimensional line, which then branches and connects into a two-dimensional triangle. The triangle folds outward to form a stable cube. Under the influence of rotation, the edges of the cube smooth out, resulting in the final physical form of all manifested matter, spheres. This sequence is detailed in the text's commentary, which lists the progression from dots and lines to triangles, cubes, and circles. In this framework, physical form is the mathematical derivative of primordial motion. Geometrical laws dictate the structure of the natural world. To animate these shapes without an external prime mover, we have to look at the physical mechanics of the system. This page describes a scientific puzzle identified by Professor Newcomb. He noted that the heat generated by a contracting gaseous nebula exceeds the amount of heat it would logically lose to produce that contraction. Blavatsky addresses this through an esoteric mechanic, the presence of dual thermal forces. She posits that there is heat internal and heat external in every atom. Within a single unit of matter, external pressure pushing inward clashes with internal heat pushing outward. The collision of these forces generates rotation from within the matter itself, rather than through an external push. This thermodynamic clash drives the law of vortical movement, described in the text with the phrase, "the deity becomes a whirlwind." Cosmic rotation is the mechanical result of these dual forces. In this system, the whirlwind fulfills the role traditionally assigned to a creator. This model relies on a specific physical requirement. If the base elements of the universe are simple and indivisible, as 19th century science often assumed, the system fails. The text predicts the opposite, that supposedly simple elements are actually complex, compound structures built from smaller fractionations. This paragraph cites the fractionation of yttrium as evidence. Research had shown that this supposedly simple element could be broken down into further components. Blavatsky used the work of experimental chemists like William Crookes to ground her framework in contemporary observations. This page also references Clerk Maxwell, who noted that the elements are not absolutely homogeneous. This denial of simple matter is a structural requirement. Without infinite interior complexity, the geometric laws have no components to organize into motion. When we view the manifested universe at large, these geometric and vortical rules apply to all scales. The formula is scale invariant. This planetary nebula is rotating as a single unit, yet it is constructed entirely of thousands of smaller, distinct spheres. Zooming into one of those interior spheres reveals it is identical to the macrostructure, driven by the same internal thermodynamic friction. By combining scale invariance with the rejection of an external prime mover, the system forms a self-sustaining loop. This framework anticipated the fractal complexity of matter decades before the formal development of quantum mechanics. Within this system, the macrocosm and microcosm are linked by thermodynamic and geometric rules that apply regardless of scale. Helena Blavatsky's framework offers a model of the universe that avoids the requirement of a first cause, while rejecting the premise of simple, inert matter. For an uncreated universe to function under these axioms, it requires both eternal pulsation and infinite complexity within every unit of matter. In this model, ceaseless, inherent vortical motion is the logical substitute for an external creator. The framework stands as an internally consistent structure. It suggests that to construct an eternal universe, one must rely on the precise